You lovely folks, in light of Oasis getting back together for some kind of reunion tour until they inevitably fight and then break up again, we're going to talk about Liam Gallagher's voice today. So if you'd like to join me, we're going to break some of the techniques and the things that you could go about trying to discover, trying to try on like clothing, like vocal clothing, in terms of getting a sound similar to Liam's. So if you want to follow me, everybody shut up. We're going to sing stuff. And I tried so hard to heal this wound, this pain I feel. All right, so I haven't been the biggest Oasis fan in my life. I do like a lot of different songs. I did buy one of their albums back when I was young, and that was kind of more the golden age of rock music and everything, when we used to have MTV and videos on TV and be able to consume music in so much more of a beautiful way, I feel like, than we do now. And yeah, I did like a lot of the songs, but I also liked them because my exposure to them was much more natural and awesome. Just sitting down watching TV, new video comes up, new song. Oh, cool, man. And that was great. So, but anyway, when we talk about Liam, I don't know much about the dude. I've watched interviews, sometimes just out of the curiosity to see if the dude is perpetually in a bad mood all the time. He always seems like, he kind of seems like Joe Pesci, like, you think I'm funny? That kind of thing where you're just waiting for somebody to say something that might make him react more poorly, and punch somebody in the face. It just always seems like at that precipice of like, yeah, you fucking say this to me. It just always seems to be kind of upset and angry. And in that sense, there can be, after a certain amount of time, some kind of love coming through for this person, but the dude's a character. It completely consumes his entire being. And you don't see many people like that, at least anymore, that are just completely kind of an attitude, a walking character attitude that comes through all the time. It does not shut off. There isn't a day like, man, I've been having a bad day. It just, it's almost always confrontational and whatever. And again, maybe you have a different view of that. I don't mean to piss anyone off if you're a big fan, but I do find that interesting when I watch stuff. So one of the cool things about talking about his voice is that attitude, even in a small way, comes through when trying to learn about his voice or mimic his voice. And this isn't going to be the most perfect example, but I did record some examples we're going to get into. But if I kind of listen to him here for a second, and we watch a second of him in an interview, and he's talking about Twitter here, about liking to make people upset.
Square at the moment, aren't they? You know what I mean? Everyone's just a bit serious and miserable, you know what I mean? I do like winding people up.
I do like winding people up. So he doesn't necessarily do this, but the sound a lot of times is emanating from the very front in the face, meaning his voice is coming right about here. We have the English accent, but everything's kind of enunciating right here. So if I start to lift the top lip a little bit, almost like something kind of fucking smells, I'll get a little bit more of his sound, and I get a little bit more of this attitude up here. So a little bit like this, like just perpetually like, yeah. Who's the shit? I'm the shit. And when I start to sing through that attitude comes through. Now, funny enough, that attitude comes through in a lot of people. It also comes through a little bit in Tom York, which is one of my favorite singers of all time, and Radiohead, which is one of my favorite bands. Open your mouth wide, the universal sigh has a little bit of the same kind of attitude right here. Why are you still? Can you hear that? How it kind of comes through like this a little bit? So it's almost a lack of enunciation, but a preferred kind of attitude and slur of speech. And it happens a lot with Liam as well. Like I said, we're going to kind of break that down. We're going to talk about it more. But as you probably already know, the dude does have vocal issues. And every time I've heard him sing now, he pretty much shies away from high notes. But he shies away from high notes in a fucking way I've never seen before. So if you watch any newer stuff of him singing Oasis songs or whatever, you will see him kind of sort of reach for a high note and just be like, that's all you get. That's all you fucking get. He doesn't give you the note, and he doesn't give a shit about it. He just has his attitude and the way he walks and the way he just stands up to the mic like this, which is terrible for your voice, by the way, to stretch your voice like this throughout a whole show. Gives him more, once again, of his signature sound, which is all just coming right up through here, right up to the front. And it's horizontal and it's flat. But either way, bad for your voice. But I've never heard somebody that, didn't just like say, let's tune the key down, Try to hit the notes sometimes, or just not have that sense of like, man, I really wish I could have did better on that song. Not Liam, dude. He's just going to be like, that's what you get, bruv. So, I don't know if he says bruv. Anyway, it's fun to say bruv, though. So, okay. I recorded some samples here. And again, this is all out of fun. And it's all out of just like trying to kind of pull up that mimicry. But let's check out a couple seconds of me trying to do some of this stuff. And then, like, again, we'll talk about this.
So what's the matter with you? Sing me something new. Don't you know the cold and winter rain? Oh no, they only seem to come and go away. Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting on? Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova in the sky.
Hey, welcome back. So, again, can you hear a little bit of this attitude? How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? If you want to start out trying to sound like this or try to pull some of this sound in, again, we have a little bit of this attitude here. We could put our head up like this, and then we'll probably start by saying the word yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. And you see I'm making this face the whole time. And that's what a lot of this sound's coming from, right? So if I sang, made a meal and threw it up on Sunday, I've got a lot of things to learn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that kind of whiny, yeah, is coming through all that stuff. Can you hear that? Made a meal and threw it up on. Now, he does have support. He is able to support. And his voice is higher than me, and it might be higher than yours. In terms of some of these notes, these higher notes, I had to do things to correct to pull up and sing those notes, like Champagne Supernova, some of this stuff. But him, he can just push into them. So he tends to, when he pulls up higher and higher in his range, push harder and harder. And if the range is there, excellent. If the range isn't, he doesn't care. But there's some of that, a little bit of that distortion, a little bit of that grit he gets on higher notes. Like that. It's a little bit higher, I believe, in the actual song. He's actually pushing from here, and he's supporting well. But again, this whole posture like this, with the fucking tambourine and all this kind of stuff, like I said, always know that this is stretching your vocal cords this way, and it's just forcing everything to be more like this and small. So again, when we talk about singing, I know this is all over the place. Everything wants to open up and process itself vertically. Openness. Yeah, 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 yeah. So anytime I pull in some of this right here, it starts to make things kind of flat. It tends to pull my larynx up, and it tends to kind of make everything harder to sing. I'm pushing everything through more of a small, flat space, and then the higher I go, the more that space becomes more pingy, closed, and flat. It gets louder, of course, but everything's just going right here. So if you think about the Californians from SNL, California enunciation is very similar. It's very forward. It's very, if you think about the Valley Girl thing, oh my God, everything is right here. And everything is happening in the front of the face like this. There's a lot of enunciation happening. So, with this voice again, caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova. It's happening the same way right here. Same way, same way. Can you hear the difference there? And the funny thing about this that we'll playfully do here is that if we push this even a little bit further and towards horizontal, and we start bringing it back through the jaw, more importantly back down here, we'll get Ozzy Osbourne. So let's try to sing Champagne Supernova a little bit more in the style of Ozzy Osbourne and see how that sounds.
Someday you will find me go beneath the landslide. It is champagne supernova, a champagne supernova in the sky.
So whether you love that or not. If I go from yeah like this and have a little bit of this kind of attitude I'm talking about here, made a meal and threw it up on, made a meal and threw it, and I start to kind of pull this into it. So I'm taking my whole mouth and trying to make a rectangle like this. That's how we get Ozzy Osbourne. Eyes, 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 yeah, 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 like this. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train, so everything's kind of happening like this all the time, and it pulls down through the jaw like this. Once again, not good for the voice. But if we pull back to Liam or a little bit more of that, going off the rails on a crazy train. We got a little bit of that same sound, but it's more coated in this lax, relaxed attitude in the front of the face. So aside from that, like I said, if you want to try to get more close to this sound, we can take vowels and we can start trying to modify them to place them right here. But again, this is all about fun. I'm not sure that many people are looking up like, yeah, I want to sound just like him. I will say this before we continue. I like the dude's voice. A lot of people do. They've sold millions and millions of records. Very popular people. One of the reasons for that popularity in terms of loving the guy's voice or liking the guy's voice, whether you think the technique is good or whether you know it, is because of this thing I consistently talk about with placement. A reoccurring placement and a reoccurring tonality starts to light the brain up. It starts to become like home. And when it starts to happen again and then deviates a little bit and then comes back to home and then deviates a little bit and then comes back to home again, it goes, and it starts to sound really pleasing to the ear. When it moves around a lot and a word pulls here and then it changes here, a lot of times we don't like those voices as much, whether you recognize it or not. So again, I know I don't sound too much like this guy, but if I playfully know that I'm sitting right here, someday you will find, and I take all the words away, what you just heard is a very similar tonality and placement, meaning I was staying just about right here. You hear how that now if I put words through that, you're going to hear some variation, but it becomes like an instrument, and then it keeps coming back to that same tonality, which again, people like that. They don't recognize they like that, but that consistency keeps showing up and it's pleasing. Someday you will find me, find so it continues like that. So again, if I take vowels, which again, singing is vowels, A, and we pull in a little bit of this face. I just like fucking wind the people up. And we pull in a little bit of this face here. A, and we have this attitude. A, 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 E, 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 I, O, 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 you perfectly get the attitude in you because we have no time to go you. We go you. So what's the matter with you? Say me something new. New. You hear how that small shift right there is changing very much how I sound? You can pull this kind of stuff into your voice. And again, when it comes to finding your home and what feels natural to you, or finding consistency in tone, we're finding what feels right for you. If you fucking want to put the mic up here, or you want to put it down here, or whatever you want to do, finding a consistency in your physical adjustments in your physical foundation of how you're breathing and adjusting and pushing into the notes, whether you're a loud singer, quiet singer, and then hearing that every time you step up to a mic, being able to feel and hear your common tone or your kind of placement coming through helps you to find your home base. With me, a lot of times, it tends to be more far back and nasal. So if I went, what's the matter with you? Sing me something new. Don't you know the code? Don't you know? Don't you know? So I have my own version of kind of attitude and stuff. And again, my voice tends to kind of sound a little bit more like Cornell or this pharyngeal kind of back attitude like that. But still, I've been influenced by these people. Tom York is a big influence of mine. And yeah, but when I step up to the mic and everything, and I'm singing my own music or I'm recording, I can zone in on that tone very quickly. What's my tone? Hey, 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 I owe you. Hey. My voice likes to sit there. It likes to stay there. It's very comfortable there. So I know this, once again, was all over the place, and hopefully you had a little bit of fun with it. Hopefully you're trying to do some of these things. Put on some reverb, put on some compression, and sing yourself some karaoke, and see what you can do with this stuff. And yeah, see if you can push it a little bit farther and get to Ozzy or get to, you know, other people. And mimicry is fun like this. It teaches you more about your voice, and we'll see how the Oasis thing goes. Again, I'm not buying tickets to this because I'm not a big enough fan, and God knows how much the tickets would be. I do find it kind of sad that him and his brother, that they're just, you know, they were always fighting and always pissed off at each other, and they both have these big, you know, attitudes and ego. But again, you got to remember that these folks are kind of a dying breed, so it's interesting to see how people used to deal with this stuff, how rock stars were, all this stuff. I remember seeing a video of Liam live with Oasis, and he kept knocking the mic stand down, just fucking bam, and knocking it down. You see this poor dude come out, set it back up each time. And I remember, you know, it's very hard to like somebody like that, because you're like, sir, could you please, we'd like to hear the song. Could you stop knocking the mic stand down? And every time you would hear, you just hear it fall down, and somehow the mic kept working, but kind of hard to love. So anyway, hopefully it didn't wind you up, but I appreciate you. I'm going to be breaking more people's voices down, so I'll see you soon.